Welcome to Red Horror Tale. My name is Oxley. A man comes home to find his wife dead on the floor, and the only person who could have killed her may have been 20 minutes away when she died. Liverpool, England, the 20th of January, 1931. The night before, a stranger called himself Qualtrough and sent a Liverpool insurance agent across the city on an errand that had no destination. The address he was given, 25 Menlove Gardens East, did not exist. While he searched, back at 29 Wolverton Street, his wife Julia was beaten to death in their sitting room. He was convicted of her murder and then cleared in a legal first that shook England. But no one was ever charged in his place. Nearly a century later, the question has never been answered. Who killed Julia Wallace? We're glad you're here, because this case belongs to anyone willing to think hard about it. We'll lay every clue on the board as we go, and by the end, you'll weigh the evidence and decide for yourself. Chapter 1. A door left unlocked. Liverpool, the 20th of January, 1931. A bitter, dark evening. William Wallace had spent the better part of the evening searching for an address that did not exist. Now he was coming home to 29 Wolverton Street, Anfield. He tried the front door. It would not open, and yet it was not locked. He tried again. Something was holding it. From the inside, he went around to the back of the house. The back door was already unlocked. He went inside, and he found Julia. Julia Wallace had been beaten to death in her own sitting room. Think about what you now know. An address that led nowhere, a wife left alone, and a back door that needed no key to open. Was that door left unlocked by accident? Or had someone been expected, or quietly let themselves out? Let's open the board. The location, 29 Wolverton Street, Anfield, Liverpool, England. And Julia Wallace, the victim. Chapter 2. The Wallaces of Wolverton Street. Liverpool, 1931. At 29 Wolverton Street, in the Anfield district, lived William and Julia Wallace. By most accounts, theirs was a quiet life. Some would say, an unusually contained one. Julia Wallace was born in 1861. She was cultured, private. Neighbors knew little about her inner world. William worked as an insurance agent, collecting premiums door to door across Liverpool. That work meant cash, collected weekly, brought home, stored inside the house. Exactly how that money was kept, and exactly where, that detail sat quietly in the record for decades. Investigators would note later that only a small amount of cash was unaccounted for. Whether anything more was taken was never established. Think about that for a moment. Who, beyond William Wallace himself, would know the money was there? Because the evening before Julia died, someone made a telephone call, and that call would set everything in motion. On the board so far, Julia Wallace, the victim. Now we pin up William Herbert Wallace, the husband, suspect. Chapter 3. The call that started everything. The 19th of January, 1931, Liverpool, England. That evening, William Wallace was at his chess club. A message was waiting for him there. Someone calling himself R.M. Qualtrough had telephoned the club. Qualtrough asked Wallace to call at 25 Menlove Gardens East the following night, on insurance business. The timing of that call was precise, placed to reach Wallace at exactly the right moment. Investigators traced the call to a public telephone box. That box stood roughly 400 yards from the Wallaces' own home. Whoever made that call knew the neighborhood intimately. Think about what that means. Whoever called knew Wallace would be at that chess club and knew the exact time to reach him there. Who could have known both of those things? And why does that question lead somewhere very close to home? On the board so far, William Herbert Wallace, the husband/suspect. Now we pin up unknown, the killer, unidentified. Chapter 4. The address that wasn't there. The evening of the 20th of January, 1931, William Wallace set out to find 25 Menlove Gardens East. He asked a tram conductor for directions. He asked a police constable on his beat. He asked local residents, more than one, by all accounts. He found Menlove Gardens north, south, and west. There was no east. For roughly 3/4 of an hour, he kept searching. Every witness placed him there, genuinely lost, or so it appeared. Consider what that means. Multiple witnesses, multiple stops, no address ever found. This is either the most airtight alibi in Liverpool's criminal history, or the most patient performance ever staged. Think carefully about that, because the answer changes everything. And the rooms he came home to that night tell a story of their own. On the board so far, unknown, the killer, unidentified. Now we pin up 19 January 1931. Qualtrough leaves message for Wallace. Chapter 5. The obvious answer and its flaw. The prosecution's case was elegant, almost beautiful in its simplicity. William Wallace, they argued, invented the name Qualtrough himself. He placed the call 400 yards from his own front door. The address he invented, 25 Menlove Gardens East, did not exist. The phantom errand would buy him time. While he searched, the prosecution said, Julia Wallace was killed at home. He returns, discovers the body, raises the alarm. The grieving husband, cold, calculated. A perfect alibi built from a single telephone call. In April 1931, a jury agreed. William Wallace was convicted and sentenced to death. It was the tidiest answer. And then something remarkable happened. In May 1931, the Court of Criminal Appeal quashed the conviction. For the first time in English legal history, a murder verdict overturned as simply unsupported by the evidence. The tidy answer breaks apart. And if it wasn't Wallace, then who was it? And how did they know exactly where to strike? On the board so far, 19 January 1931. Qualtrough leaves message for Wallace. Now we pin up 20 January 1931. Wallace searches non-existent address. Chapter 6. The Phantom Caller. The call that sent William Wallace across Liverpool. It didn't come from nowhere. Investigators traced it to a public telephone box, roughly 400 yards from Wolverton Street. 400 yards is a short walk from your own front door. The caller gave a name, R.M. Qualtrough, and an address that did not exist. The name, Qualtrough, was not a random invention. It is a real Liverpudlian name, known in certain circles. Whoever chose it knew the area, and knew it well enough to almost fool a man who lived there. Here is what we cannot get past. It was never proven who made that call, and it was never established whether the caller and the killer were even the same person. Think about that for a moment, because it changes everything. What do you make of it? A fabricated name? A nearby phone box? A family known to both callers and neighbors. The unsettling possibility is this: 2 separate people may have been at work that night. And if that is true, one of them may have known the Wallaces far more closely than anyone admitted. On the board so far: 20, January 1931. Wallace searches non-existent address. Now we pin up 20, January 1931. Julia found beaten to death at home. Chapter 7. What the rooms told and didn't. The sitting room at 29 Wolverton Street held the answer. Or it should have. Julia Wallace was killed there, in that room, on the evening of the 20th of January, 1931. When investigators examined the room, something was missing. A small amount of cash. Gone. But here's the detail that changes everything, and we foreshadowed it. William Wallace was an insurance agent. He collected premiums door to door and kept cash at home. That cash had a purpose and a place, and not everyone would have known where to find it. It was never established what else, if anything, had been taken. No inventory survived that could tell us what the room once held. So ask yourself, was this a robbery that turned violent? Or was that missing cash placed there to look like one? Think about that with me, because the motive and the method hinge on this single question. Whoever took that money, or arranged for it to seem taken, knew the house and knew the man who lived in it. On the board so far: 20, January 1931. Julia found beaten to death at home. Now we pin up May 1931. Appeal court quashes murder conviction. Chapter 8. Someone who knew the house. No window was broken, no lock had been forced, and yet someone had been inside. It was the back door that troubled investigators most. How the killer entered or left was never established, but the evidence points away from a stranger, someone who knew the layout, someone who knew the routines. Think about what that means. The call that sent Wallace out came from a box 400 yards from his own street. If the caller knew Wallace's schedule and the killer knew his house, ask yourself, could that be one person? And if so, how close to the Wallace's life would that person have had to be? On the board so far: May 1931. Appeal court quashes murder conviction. Now we pin up a key clue: fake Qualtrough phone message. Chapter 9. Theories, suspects, silence. 9 decades of searching, and still no single answer holds. The theories have multiplied across the years. The first asks whether someone from Wallace's professional world arranged the whole thing. Someone who knew Wallace's routine, who could invent a name, place a call, and vanish. The second theory reaches closer to home. A local opportunist who knew the house, someone with knowledge of the layout, the hours, the habits inside 29 Wolverton Street. And then, the third theory, the one that never fully went away. Could William Wallace himself have been involved? Despite his acquittal, the Court of Criminal Appeal quashed his conviction in May 1931, the first time that had ever happened in English legal history. Think about it with me. The false address, the timed call, the unlocked door. Each theory fits some of the evidence, and none of them fits all of it. The board is full, and yet one piece, somewhere, is still missing. On the board so far: a key clue, fake Qualtrough phone message. Now we pin up a key clue: non-existent address, 25 Menlove Gardens. Chapter 10. The board is yours now. Liverpool, January 1931. A woman is dead. Julia Wallace, beaten to death in her own home, and no one has ever been convicted of killing her. The night before, a caller left a message for her husband, a name, Qualtrough, and an address to visit. The call box was traced to about 400 yards from the Wallaces' own front door. The address itself, 25 Menlove Gardens East, did not exist. While William Wallace searched for a street that was never there, Julia was killed. A small amount of cash was missing, but whether anything was truly stolen was never established. William Wallace was convicted, then freed. The verdict quashed on appeal in May 1931. The identity of the killer was never established, and it remains officially unsolved to this day. Now the board is yours. The call, the timing, the phantom address, the unlocked door, the missing cash. What do you make of it when you lay every piece side by side and follow the thread wherever it leads? Leave your theory in the comments, and if you want to keep looking, the next unsolved case is already waiting. On the board so far, a key clue, non-existent address, 25 Menlove Gardens. Now we pin up a key clue, phone box, 400 yards from victim's home.